the Sewcial Hour Podcast, a podcast for sewists by sewists. I'm your host, Bethany.
And I'm your host, Audra. And today we're going to talk about how we got here. And by how I got here, we mean how we ended up with our jobs in the industry and just kind of that trajectory along the way. Because I'm sure there are others out there that would like to do the same thing. And we're going to tell you how we did it. Doesn't mean it'll work for everybody, but we can at least share some of our background.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to share our story because, I don't take my job for granted. All jobs have hard moments and challenges and things that we don't love about them. Every job is that way. But at the same time, it's really cool. And I was literally having this conversation with someone the other day about how it was very unique to have your passion and your hobby aligned with your full-time career and get to do that all the time. And some people are like, oh, I would hate that. That would be too much. And for some people it may be. But for me and for us, we just love sewing so much in this industry so much that it feels extra special to be able to do it 24/7. And I don't know about you, but I'm very grateful for that. And it's a special thing I don't take for granted.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think for some people, when you bring together your professional skills with your personal passions, it doesn't work. Sometimes it can totally crash and burn because then your passion just becomes a job. But I think you and I have really lucked out in that. For me, I think it actually amplifies my love for my creative outlets.
I know.
Which I know is super unique and I know is an absolute blessing. So we'll just share we'll share where we came from and maybe someone will take a little interest from it. Maybe we can help answer questions. And as always, and we talked about the last episode, this podcast is here for you. We want to answer your questions. We want to inspire you. We want to ignite your creativity. So if there's any questions you have, we are available. Reach out anytime and we are happy to answer them.
So before we dive into our careers and our backgrounds of sewing, I have to ask, what was your dream job growing up as a kid?
Okay, so I'm going to skip forward a little bit. And we're going to go past the kid part. Because when I was a kid, kid, I didn't think I actually had a dream job as a kid.
You never played ITT Tech?
No, I didn't.
My brother and I did all the time.
And I don't know why that is. And maybe I don't know. I was an odd kid. I'm still an odd adult.
I was too.
But
clearly, I played ITT Tech from commercials on TV.
Yeah. By the way, I think we both dated ourselves that we actually know what that is. There's going to be a whole contingent of people who have no idea what that is.
But those who do, we thank you for it.
We thank you. When I was little, I don't know why I don't think I had I want to do X, but when I was in high school, my dream job, for those of you who watch The West Wing, I wanted to be CJ Craig and be White House press secretary.
Really?
So hard. No joke. To the point I majored in public relations because I wanted to be White House press secretary. So
That's nuts.
I know. I don't know. There was something about standing at that podium, putting out fires, answering questions, the bam, 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 all stuff always happening. And I think that just really interested me. So
you also love history and you love all of that.
Yeah, I'll talk about my background a little bit once we get rolling. But yeah, I wanted to be CJ Craig. I wanted to be Allison Janney playing CJ Craig as White House press secretary because I thought she just commanded that room. And it was just so inspiring to me.
I love it. I wanted to be a fashion designer. Oh, good. Sorry.
That shows the level of nerd I am that I'm in high school and I'm I want to be White House press secretary.
Yeah, that wasn't even on my radar or even knew what a White House press secretary was when I was in high school. I was so disconnected with reality and in my own little teenage bubble. That would have never been on my radar.
I own it.
But I commend you for it. I love that.
I think Aaron Sorkin has a piece of my heart. I texted you this. I'm like, oh my God, I love Aaron Sorkin. And you're like, who's Aaron Sorkin? And I'm like, have you seen like A Few Good Men?
Okay, so you probably like the shows that are like politics based, or what was one that was, I actually watched it and I liked it. Designated Survivor.
I watched the first couple episodes. I didn't keep going with it, but I'm
that
sure
one I really enjoyed.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that one because it taught me a lot about the structure of our government. Because literally, spoiler alert, when they meet and have these big like things, there's always someone that stays behind in case something bad were to happen, and that's what happens.
It's called the State of the Union Address.
Okay, well, the State of the Union. Well, I don't know if they did it all the time or just for that. Okay, I don't know these things.
I don't know. They may do it more often, but I know for sure they do it for the State of the Union Address.
That's what it was based around, correct? Yeah, and so he stayed out. And he was just like kind of like a nobody, and he was actually on the verge of like kind of getting fired. And so they just were like, oh, we'll put him over there, and he won't be in attendance. And then obviously something really bad happened, and everybody went. And then he instantly, like, because he's the designated survivor of should something bad happen, and that bad thing happened, he became the president. He went from about losing his job and being a part of like the housing development part of the government to the president, and then having to defend that, and it was all. And I learned a lot about he had to find and bring in new like people for every department of the government, and just it really kind of taught me. It's sad to say, but it taught me a lot. It just wasn't something that interested me growing up. My brother was the person in our family that enjoyed learning all of that, and so for me, I kind of learned. But I'm a space nerd. So if it's a movie about outer space, that's where I am now. Not weird aliens, not scary stuff, but like the journey into space.
Oh, I'm the weird alien scary stuff.
Yeah, I don't do scary movies, but like Interstellar is my all-time favorite movie.
Because so I need to go back and watch that.
Oh I watch it like times a year. So your
dream job.
My dream job was to be a fashion designer from a very young age.
That tracks though. That very much tracks with how you ended up.
It does. And honestly, it's because I started playing around with sewing stuff when I was about 5. But I started taking actual classes when I was 7, and I had my first complete outfit, which I still have. I'll put a picture of it in the Facebook group. If you haven't joined the Sewcial Facebook group, that's a little bit of a tongue twister, but if you haven't joined our Facebook group, go over there because every episode we put an episode thread. We'll post pictures and links and everything that we talk about in there, and then we love your engagement there. But anyways, I'll post a picture there. It was the first time I've made a complete outfit. I was 9 years old. It was like some elastic waist shorts and a baseball style top that had like the buttons with like the curved collar and the bigger sleeve. And it was all like patriotic fabric, matchy. And it had on the pocket was an embroidery with my monogram. There was a edge applique on the bottom. I mean, there was buttons, there was elastic, there was pockets.
Good for
there
you.
There was all these different elements, and there was facing. Everything was in this outfit, and I made it all by myself in a class. And they chose my outfit to be worn and walked down a runway.
No way.
At 9 years old, and I was just. If from that moment of seeing my work walk down the runway, that was it for me. I was like, I need to be a fashion designer.
That's awesome.
You
did embroidery?
We did embroidery, applique, buttons. There was a lot. I made the whole thing, and I still have it. The shorts don't fit me anymore, but I can, because this shirt was so oversized, I can kind of put the shirt on. But the shorts. No.
All right, we gotta see that.
Yeah, I'll post a picture in the Facebook group because it's hanging in the closet right here in my studio. I will never get rid of it. That's first awesome. Outfit I ever made. It's not the most fashion forward, stunning outfit, but it had a lot of elements that you would never expect a 9-year-old to do.
Yeah.
But they said, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to? And I was like, I want to do all the things. And so I did all the things.
All the things.
All the things. So
All
yeah.
the things.
So that's
Awesome.
what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I guess I'd say I'm kind of sticking to it. So I guess how if that journey, I mean, it led me to school. I didn't really know what I wanted to major in college. I just knew I wanted to go to the University of Tennessee. I'm from Nashville, and I wanted to go far enough away to be my own person and have my own experiences. But I also wanted to stay in state. And so I went to the University of Tennessee, a big volunteer fan, a big SEC football fan. And that was the only school I applied to. My private school that I went to for high school was like, you've got to apply to more places. And you need to apply to all these other places. I was like, nope, that's where I'm going to go. And they were like, but what if you don't get in? I was like, then I'm not going. Like, it was just like, that was
All
it for me.
those eggs in one basket.
And they were like, well, why do you want to go? I was like, football. I went to the University of Tennessee for football. And I stayed there for a little over a year. I ended up going as fine art major, like took like painting and drawing and sculpting and all these kind of really awesome woodworking classes and all the things I love to do. My dad still to this day jokes that I majored in my hobbies. And I was like, well, I'm going to prove you wrong because I can make a career out of that, whether you think so or not. And I'm finally at 40 starting to prove him wrong. But they didn't have a fashion program at the time. It wasn't a very common program at the time. And so I ended up moving back to Nashville and moving home. And I went to the International Academy of Design and Technology for fashion design and merchandising. And I was there for a couple of years. I had a 4.0. It was the first time I've ever had straight A's in my entire life because I loved it so much. I was the only one in my class that had sewing experience. And I just excelled. I made runways. I made art boards. I designed fabrics. I designed patterns. Everything was draping and by hand. There was no computer programs to do any of it. I thrived. And then I got pregnant with my son, and all of that came to a screeching halt because I had to be a mom. Mm-hmm. And so I never got to finish. And it's something that I really regret that I never got to finish, but my priorities changed overnight. And so I became a mom at 21 and almost 22. And I went to work for my dad's construction company. And then I went to work for a fire sprinkler company and managed their service department. And then I went into sales in the construction industry. And I was out there in my hard hat and boots every day on job sites, and I just hustled my butt off. It got me into recruiting. I moved to Florida. I did finance and accounting recruiting for an HR for like 10 years. I moved back during the pandemic. And that entire time, I sewed on the side and I crafted and I made things, but I was just surviving, truly just surviving as a single mom for a very long time. So in 2020, when we moved back during the pandemic back home to Nashville, obviously nobody was hiring recruiters. They were the first jobs to go because everybody was laying people off. And I was pretty much unemployed for a year when I first moved back. And so I was hustling. I mean, I've always been a hustler. I will always do whatever I have to provide. And so, I mean, it was hard, but I needed a sense of community. Everybody was on lockdown. I didn't even have an Instagram at that point. I don't think or other than a personal one. I didn't have like Craft with Bethany yet. And I just was on my own Facebook account, and I was just going live late at night crafting. I was making epoxy tumblers. I had my bandana business at that time because I started that before the pandemic. So I had my Biscuit Belle Boutique pet bandana business and Etsy shop. So I was hustling that, even though there weren't shows anymore. I was working my tail off, but I was putting myself out there. I just turned on the camera and I was going live every night. People were watching what I was making. And from watching what I was doing, I was getting orders for things. That is what helped me survive. I had a phone and a crappy tripod, and it was a mess. It was a mess. But you just have to start, right? From that, when I first moved back, that first 4th of July, a few months after I had just moved back, a friend of mine from here said, hey, I'm going to a friend's house for fireworks and a little potluck. If you want to come, you've been gone for 6 years living in Florida. It'd be good for you to come meet some new people. She sews, so I think you guys would get along. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I go to this house on the lake and we watched the fireworks on the lake. We had a nice dinner. I didn't know anybody but that one person that invited me. And I meet the people that lived at this house, and the lady that lived there was the director of education for SVP Worldwide for Singer, Viking, and Pfaff.
And the stars align.
And in her sewing room, and had all these fancy embroidery machines that I've never even seen in my entire life. And I was just like, and I went back over and I was like, you did not tell me who she was. He's like, well, she just sews. And I'm like, she doesn't just sew. I was just like, I was not prepared for this. I was like,
this is like celebrity stuff for us.
Oh, yeah, no, it's funny because some people are just like, oh, you sew, can you do this? And I'm like, it's so much more than that. Anyways, so we hit it off. We had a great time. We sipped wine on their boat from the dock watching fireworks, and that was kind of it. She started following me on Facebook. We never really saw each other after that, and we never really talked after that. And I honestly kind of forgot that she was following me on Facebook. But again, remember, I'm still going live every night after my son goes to bed, and making stuff and just telling people what I'm doing. Even though I'm making it and selling it, I always shared my process, what worked for me, what I was using, the new tools I got as I upgraded things. And I was having so much fun with it. And I was just kind of a natural to just turn on the camera and be myself. And it was about 9 months after I met Sonny, that's her name, I got a Facebook message from her. And at this point, I had found a contract position for about 6 months doing staffing a whole company that had rebuilt after the tornado that we had the previous years. And I was kind of wrapping up that contract, and I didn't know what I was going to do next. And even though I was doing that contract job, I still every night came back and did my crafting. It was an outlet. It had become an outlet for me and a way to connect with people. So Sonny sent me a DM, and she goes, I don't know what you've got going on, but I have a position that's opened up for the Singer brand and on my education team, and I think you might be a really good fit for it. And that was all I knew. And I was like, I would love to discuss it. And we met and had a conversation. I went through 5 interviews with executive suite people. And I by the end of it, I still didn't fully understand what this job was going to entail. And I don't think they really did either. And I think it was truly going to be based off the skills and what I could learn and bring to the table that was going to help develop and grow it into what I did turn it into. But I got offered the job, and I started May 17th in 2021. And I worked for the company for 3.5 years, and I loved it. And that was how I got into the industry and truly wasn't seeking it. I didn't even know that Singer or SVP was even in Nashville, that they had a headquarters here. I know you said before in the last episode that you sought out LinkedIn notifications of any jobs in the industry popped up and those it was not even on my radar. I just thought that I had gotten in such a rut of being in the recruiting and staffing industry and HR industry that was just what my life was going to be like. And because I didn't finish college and I kind of given up on my dream, and the fact that me just putting myself out there and her seeing me go live, that's pretty much what I was doing for Singer. I was doing live sew-alongs, craft-alongs. I had some sewing experience, but definitely learned 80% of the sewing knowledge I have now in my tenure that I had at SVP.
Dang.
Because I got exposed to every type of sewing in that 3 years.
You learn by doing. I mean, you absolutely learn by doing.
I had to do it all. I had to learn it all. And it wasn't just beginner friendly stuff on entry level machines. It's $25,000 embroidery machines, and I'm learning how to manage those and teach those and developing new products. And it was a lot. It was so much fun. And that is how I got into the industry. And from there, after that, I decided to take a leap of faith, which I kind of mentioned before. And I was at Quilt Market, and right next to the booth that I was in was Caterpillar booth. So I ended up talking to them quite a bit. And while I was at Singer, I did something called the Home Shopping Network, or HSN. Probably my absolute favorite thing I ever did there, where I got to go on live TV and promote Singer products. I launched the Ditto there. I launched the Singer Momento cutting machine last year there for the North America. I've done today's specials and launched I don't know how many different machines on there, sold out machines. It's been a blast. Doing live TV, like you want to be on the press secretary and have like all of that pressure. That is what I had with HSN on live TV, and never knowing what I was going to get asked on the spot and if this machine's going to work or not, and that kind of thing. And I thrived. It was like a roller coaster, and I just loved the adrenaline rush. And so when I went to Quilt Market, I had reached, saw Caterpillar, and one of the last times that I was on HSN was September, and it was for the Today Special. And that same day that I was there on air throughout the 12-hour period, they had their new Flex light, light that sticks to your sewing machine. They had that on HSN that day with one of the other guest hosts. It wasn't someone from Caterpillar. And the guest host I had seen many times every time I go there. Her name's also Beth. And so she was in the green room next to me, and she came over and she goes, I know you're here today. I know you know all things sewing. I'm a paper crafter, but I have to help launch this product today, and it's sewing related. Can you give me some tips on how you would use it so I can best promote this? And I was like, sure. So we worked together on it. So fast forward from September to end of October, when I saw Caterpillar at Quilt Market, and I was like, I went up to him, I said, hey, how did your Flex light do on HSN? They're like, how do you know about that? That was kind of random. And I was like, I was there that day. I gave Beth some tips and we talked about it. And I told her I was going to steal it because I wanted one for myself. And they were like, you do HSN? And that's what started the conversation. I just went up to him and talked to him. And so over the course of Quilt Market weekend, we kept talking. There's some downtime. We talk. The owner, the brothers that own it came by. The new CEO had come through. I met all of them. The last day, I stood there and talked to them for about an hour and a half, the owner and the CEO. And then we scheduled a meeting for the next day once we all got home. And I met with them for about an hour and a half, and they offered me a job on the spot. I thought they wanted to talk to me about doing HSN for them. Next thing I know, I'm now running their marketing and education. So again, I think my biggest feedback of sharing that process and story is you have to put yourself out there. When I went to Quilt Market, I was there for a job, but I was also there with the mindset of I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to go around and talk to as many people as I can. My goal was to build my relationship with brands so I could do more brand deals and partnerships and educational things and contract work. I really enjoyed doing contract work for singers, so I wanted to do more of that with other brands. I never went in there thinking I would get a job, but I did, and I'm grateful for it. But again, it's all about putting yourself out there. So that's my feedback on how to get into the industry. You just have to put yourself out there. I will say this though, I do feel like you manifest what you want 100%, and I feel like because I was authentically myself, and I always have been, I can't be anybody but me, and I show some vulnerabilities and I share things outside of my sewing and everything, so you get to know me better and I hopefully relate to me in some level. I feel like that is what has brought me into this industry, but also given me the quick advancement and trajectory that I've had. I know some people are like, well, I could never go up and talk to somebody, or I would never. You got to get out of your head. The one thing that will stop you from taking that step and reaching those dreams and goals is fear. So there's a song that I've shared it on my Instagram before. If you've never heard of Francesca Battistelli, and I'm probably butchering her last name, there's a song that she has called The Breakup Song. And it's not about a relationship with another person. It's actually about your relationship with fear and breaking up with fear. It's actually a very powerful song. And anytime I'm having any insecurities, self-doubt, or just imposter syndrome or anything like that, I blast that song. I sing it at full volume in my car, in the shower, in my house. I don't care. I can't sing, but I love that song. And I've been listening to it for many, many years. And if you need some encouragement to help you overcome fear. It doesn't happen overnight, but listening to things like that, or some of the things we're going to talk about in the next episode, I feel like is going to, those practices need to become things that are going to help you build to the point where you're changing the narrative in your head, and it takes time. For me, I still have fear. I still get nervous, but I would say that I also have confidence in my skills. I also look at it as I look at everybody as if we're the same, like equal playing fields. Like, I don't care if you're the most famous sewist in the world, or you're a hobby sewist and we meet for the first time, and whatever. We all put our pants on one leg at a time.
Yeah.
And when you have that kind of mindset, like, I don't care if you're the CEO of the company or the newbie walking in the door for the first time, I'm going to treat you the same way. I'm going to expect the same respect in return. And that's how I've always lived my life. And maybe that's from my upbringing in the construction industry. That's very tough. And I was a female in a male industry. But if you have that kind of mindset, the worst they can say is no.
Yep.
The worst they can say is, I'm not interested. The worst they can say is, I don't have time for that. And that's okay, because then there's so many other people you can go to talk to. So anyways, I'm going to get off my pedestal because I could talk about this all day. But truly, like, if you hear nothing from me today in this episode, please, please, please listen to that song and just learn to get out of your own way. Because a lot of what holds us back is ourselves. Not the opportunities that are presented to us, not our circumstances, not the things we have or don't have. It truly is ourselves.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, I came from like having nothing and like having no job to like living my dream over here. And I'm not saying it's rainbows and sunshines and mac and cheese and sprinkles every day, because it's not. But I am very proud of it. I'm very proud of that. Well,
and you absolutely should be. You absolutely should be.
So I want to hear your story.
I truly, truly believe to the depths of my soul that every single step in life is being laid towards something. And the thing is, I don't think we see that because we're in the moment. But then you take a step back and look at the whole picture and you're like, oh yeah, I learned this, which got me to this, which got me to this, which I wouldn't have known if I hadn't have done this. And like, it just all paints the picture. So I am a 4th generation sewist. My mom sews, my grandma sews, my great grandma sewed. My great grandma sewed my grandma's clothes and she was best dressed in high school. And my grandma sewed my mom's clothes and she was best dressed in high school. And then my mom sewed clothes for me. But then, of course, by the time I got to high school, it wasn't cool for anyone to be making clothes. But my mom would make clothes for me all the time when I was little.
Yeah, same.
I will share my favorite sewing project that my mom ever made for us, because I love all things sci-fi. She sewed us Star Trek The Next Generation costumes when I was in 4th grade. We're sharing that photo because it's a favorite. Sorry, Mom, it's happening. But so I grew up with sewing. I was dabbling in sewing in middle school, high school a little bit. When I went to college, I actually started crocheting just because I didn't take my machine with me to college. So I went to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and was majoring in journalism, mass communication with an emphasis in public relations because I wanted to be CJ Craig. And about a year and a half in, decided I wanted to double major in history because I just really love history. And I also never knew... Something told me that it was a good idea because then if I ever wanted to go teach, then I had a degree in history and I could get my teaching certification. But I just really, really loved history. So if you want to know anything about 16th century England, the Reformation, World War II, I'm your girl.
Very specific, but okay.
Very specific. Oh, I could tell you everything about Henry VIII and all of his wives, and I could tell you everything that you don't actually need to know, but I was just so into it. It was like a soap opera that happened in real life. Double majored in college, was doing crocheting, got out of college and worked in consumer product goods, actually. So up till this point, I had my creative outlets. I would sew a little bit. I would crochet. worked in consumer product goods and in marketing and product development. So that was really the mainstay of my career, is marketing, product, and brand development. That's really my bread and butter. Worked in consumer product goods. And then where did I go from there? Then I worked at an ad agency for a few years as an account manager. Kohler was one of my big clients at the time. So worked with them really closely. And again, sewing on the side in the background. Had our daughter. Then I really started sewing. My big thing when I had our daughter, so like, again, I'd been dabbling. And then Charlie was born, and it was like the fire was lit. And I loved to make baby leg warmers.
Oh my God.
I loved making baby leg warmers. And I was sewing on my grandma's Kenmore. That was my first machine I had, was my grandma's Kenmore that weighs like 30 pounds.
Did it have like the things that you attach for the different stitches? Like the...
I don't even think I know. I'd have to go dig it out. I was so into it. And for those of you who don't know what baby leg warmers are, is I would go to Joann's, potentially rest in peace. I would go to Joann's. I would buy a bunch of like their really fun socks, like the really fun printed tall socks. And I'd cut the feet off, and I would roll that end under and finish off the end. And they were great. I should do a blog about this, because they're great for babies, because then she could run around in a onesie and just have little leg warmers on. And then whenever I did change her diaper, I never had to worry about taking pants on and off.
Yeah.
So I just started making baby leg warmers like mad. And I was making her baby clothes like mad. And she was just the stylish little baby that there ever was. At least in my opinion.
So the trend of the generations continued.
Continued, yeah. So like everybody's dressing everybody. And then my mom and I decided to take a quilting class. And I was donezo.
Hooked. Hooked. Line and sinker.
And again, oh, there goes my earring. Oh, my earring just came out. Again, I was always dabbling, but I wasn't like diehard. And that was like, yep, and now we're diehard. And now we live it, and now we breathe it. So I was totally in it to win at that point. Loved all things sewing. I would go to work during the day. I would come home and sew at night. And just, that was my focus. And I mean, obviously I was a mom too, but like she would go to bed. Like my sewing room was right next to her nursery. So I would basically like put her to bed and go sew. Put her to bed and go sew.
She fell asleep to the sound of the hum of the machine.
Oh yeah. It's probably why she uses a white noise machine to go to bed at night, because she's so used to the hum of a sewing machine.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed my job, but it didn't like set my soul on fire. Yeah. What set my soul on fire was sewing.
It didn't fill your cup anymore.
It didn't fill my cup. And I mean, I did the best job I could, but I was starting to get to a point where I knew I felt compelled to just find a way to merge my professional skills with my personal passions. Because I was getting to a point, I was in a job that I wasn't loving. And I was just.
Do you find that like while you were at your job, you were thinking about sewing?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like there's like a point in the shift where you're like, I'm here to do this job, but all I can think about is what I wish I was at home doing. You know?
Yeah, and then there is always that fear, which we discussed earlier, of if I merge the two, will I start to hate it?
Yes.
But I just something said like you need to keep trying, and I had set up an Indeed notification with any job that said quilting in it. And I got a whole bunch of job notifications for like mattress quilters. And I'm like, not what I mean.
Nope.
And I was going to everybody's. I was like on the Missouri Star website for jobs all the time. I was like everybody in the industry, fabric companies, any big sewing company. I was on their websites looking for jobs, seeing what was available. But the situation is I really wasn't in a position to move. So I was just hoping that maybe like something remote would pop up or like there was some way some things would work out, because there really weren't a whole lot of opportunities where I was living at the time. And COVID happens. And as we know, the world shifts a little bit. And
a lot of it.
A lot of it. Yeah, I guess I downplayed that a little bit. A position opened up at Missouri Star, and I ended up working at Missouri Star. I was at Missouri Star for 3 years. I worked on their product team and worked on strategic initiatives. So I worked a lot on specifically things like expanding into bag making, home decor, kids and baby, what those projects look like, what that education looks like, who the strategic partner might be, what the content looks like. And I loved my job. I worked from home. I was fully remote, which was great. I went into Hamilton a few times a year. I loved my job. But I think coming out of COVID, I frankly started to get lonely. And we had moved to Madison like right before COVID hit. And then I went right into a fully remote job 5 days a week. So it was just,
you feel like you're on an island sometimes.
You're totally on an island. And through working with our bag expansion at Missouri Star, I met Jess from Sally Tomato, and we really hit it off. And it just kind of all worked out that they're actually
closer to home.
Yep. So they're an hour away from my house. So I can now go into the office. I actually get to like be more engaged. And the best part is I have been a customer since like the very, very beginning. It is a company that I fully believe in, fully support. I love our products. I love our patterns. We have an incredible team. And I just feel so blessed that I was able to merge the two, and I'm glad I merged the two. Because as you said, sometimes it doesn't work. Because sometimes you see like, I think in some industries, people see like the ugly underbelly of how it actually is. And don't get me wrong, like it's not all puppy dogs and rainbows all the time. But in my opinion, there really isn't an ugly underbelly. Like I've been very blessed that I've been able to like actually fire up my passion even more working in this industry.
The amount of growth that you get in your hobby being in the industry as your full-time, like I have machines that I would have never owned. Had it not been for working for SVP.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to touch on, which is this is where you and I differ quite a bit, and I'm inspired by you, is
thank you.
When my fire really started to grow for sewing, I started my Instagram handle like, I've had my Instagram handle for probably like 10 years. And I would like just post little things, maybe hoping someone would notice me, like post here, look at this project I'm working on. And I think if I scroll back to the beginning, I would just full on cringe. But I would just like post hoping someone might notice me and want to work with me. I never had the guts to go live. I still get weird going live. I mean, I do it. And then I feel good once I'm in it, but I still feel weird. I just kind of like hoped things would kind of fall into place. I mean, I guess I missed this part. Like I would actually message people in like HR and recruiting at some of the big sewing companies. Like, hi, I'm interested in getting, and you know what? I'm going to talk to that, because there were some really great conversations that came out of that. Is I would go on LinkedIn and find people in HR or on executive teams. And I would say, hi, I'm interested in working in the industry. Do you have 10 to 15 minutes to talk to me to give me some advice on how I can get into the industry? And honestly, 8 out of 10 times, no one would respond. But the couple of times they did, it was really helpful. And it also opens a connection. And one of the things I did was actually emailed my local quilt shop and said like, hey, can I talk to you about the industry? And I ended up working at my local quilt shop part-time. So that was actually my first toe into the industry, was working at my local quilt shop. Yay, Foxy's Quilt Company in Appleton, Wisconsin. Who I still love, Judy. She's still one of my dear friends. Shout out. I love it. So I would work there part-time, and I learned so much being able to put my home sewing with helping other people plan their projects together. And then I just kept chugging away. And then when we moved, it all kind of aligned. But unlike you, that you were putting yourself out there live every night, which by the way is just terrifying for me. Not terrifying.
I
just
had
have to get over
nothing
it.
else left. I'm like an extrovert. I was struggling being in lockdown. Like
I was
severely.
thriving.
I was struggling. It was my way to connect with people, talk to them in the chat. I mean, I would be going live 10, 11, 12, 1 a.m. Whoever was hanging out, even if no one was there, I didn't care. It was going to save. They can watch it later. I just turned on the camera and was like, well, this is what I'm doing. I looked like a hot mess. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
But it was just my way of feeling like there were still people out in the world. Yeah. Like I needed that connection so badly.
Well, and the opposite of that is I was thriving because I am absolutely an introverted extrovert. Like I will be extroverted when I have to be, but it is also very, very draining for me. Yeah. I just was in my bubble doing my thing. I was perfectly content. So I admire you putting yourself out there. And in the last year, I've really tried to develop a content calendar, be more strategic, go post Instagram stories, be more vulnerable and out there and accessible. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get. I have definitely learned, but you can't wish it. You have to do it.
It's a lot of work. And you know, I wish I could do it better. But working full time, especially in the industry, it's like, that's my priority. By the end of the day and the end of the week, like at the end of the day, I didn't want to film a video and turn the camera on again. I was so tired. I just needed to decompress. So I would just quietly sew. I might film something here and there, a reel or whatever, but I didn't like do it as hard as I should have because I was trying to find this balance of work-life balance. And it's already hard to find a work-life balance, but when it's your work and your balance are the same activity, it's even harder. So yeah.
You know what's interesting though that you said there, and I think this is what's really interesting is that you would sew quietly. So you're still sewing. You're just not sewing on camera for somebody else. And
I felt the pressure to share everything, right? Yeah. But then I finally gave myself some grace and I said, I don't have to show the process of every project I make. Sometimes I just want to sit and sew something, enjoy it. And then at the end, I can put on that outfit that I made that nobody saw me make, or I didn't teach anybody how to make it, or nothing. Yeah. But I can post a little video of it or a photo.
And that's what's interesting is you and I came at it a little bit on different sides. Like you built your personal brand and came into the industry. I came into the industry and I'm building my personal brand. My Sally tomato roll always comes first and foremost. And then this is the stuff like I do all my So Dreamy stuff for fun. We're doing this podcast for fun. I'm going to be sewing a bag today for fun. I'm sewing a tracksuit jacket for a pattern I'm working on this weekend for fun because professionally, I do this 40 or more hours a week. And for fun, I do the rest of the week. Yeah. And so in summary, there's a variety of ways that you can come at this. There's no right or wrong way. There's no right or wrong way. No. And truly,
you just have to find your way.
You have to find your way. And there's so many opportunities in the industry. And as we talk about with this podcast, we are here to help you and answer questions. So if you have questions for us, ask away. We are open books. You can DM us. You can email us. You can go to our Facebook group. Yeah, the Social Sewist.
If you are in the industry and you came about it a different way than either of us, please share that. Like, I think like I said, there's no right or wrong way, but I will say maybe someone else has a different experience, but the commonality between the two of us is we put ourselves out there. We just approached it differently. We put ourselves out there. So, and we were authentically ourselves. Like we set a goal and we did our thing. Sometimes the doors open organically and sometimes we seek them out. There's no right or wrong way, but if you decide that this is an industry you want to work in, there are a lot of opportunities. There's a lot more than people realize. And I think when you go to shows, expos, conventions, events, that is where you're going to really get the big picture of what all goes into this industry. It's a lot bigger than I think people realize, because sewing and quilting is very much an individual activity. So when you start to expand and dive into the actual industry, all the products, all the companies, all the support that goes into all these things, you're like, oh,
there truly is. There
massive.
truly is so much. And like, I don't know why I didn't think about it, but it wasn't until I actually started working in the industry. I'm like, wait, there are technical writers?
Yeah.
There are people who like tech write patterns. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I don't know why I wouldn't think that. Maybe I just thought all these pattern writers were just incredible geniuses that just did it from soup to nuts on their own. Mm-hmm. I just assumed everybody did it all on their own. I didn't know that there could be technical writers in the background who would make sure everything was accurate and all the illustrations were made. I had no clue.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into creating these brands, these products, all of it. And you only see what's on social media or on their website or at a show. You don't see everything else that goes into it, and the hundreds and thousands of people that work in this industry from every point of view.
Yeah. So. And always remember, like anything with social media is someone's highlight reel.
Oh, yeah. It really is.
So it really is. There's always, just because everything looks like bright, shiny, and beautiful doesn't mean it always is. I say that, I remind that to myself. Yeah. 'Cause I'm like, oh man, look at that amazing thing that person did. I wish blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, wait a minute. That didn't happen overnight.
It didn't. And, they may have messed up and had to seam rip some things, or, like there's a lot of the process that you don't, so it always looks easy. And then you're like, oh, so when you go to try it and it's not easy, you feel like a failure.
You get frustrated. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. You're not. It's not the first time they've sewn a zipper into a box bag, but it may be for you. So they may make it look easy, but it may not be for you, because trust me, it wasn't easy their first time either. I try to show the good, the bad, the ugly as much as I can, and balance it out. A lot of that I'll show in my stories, because I love it when you guys engage with it. But yeah, I try to keep it real. I'll sit there. Yeah. My mom and I sat there and seam ripped at the sewing club the other day, and my mom's been sewing since she was a teenager, and she's like, oh, I got to pull up my seam ripper. I sewed this on backwards. And I'm like, so it happens to the best of us.
I actually assembled a whole dress and then realized I put the skirt in wrong and had to disassemble like nearly the whole dress.
That's painful.
I sat there with my seam ripper and it was all serged.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm just sitting there with some BS TV on my iPad as I'm like seam ripping this thing out. I will, my final comment I'll make, and then we'll go into You Love to See It.
Yeah.
One of my favorite podcasts, not sewing related, but her name is Jen Gottlieb, and she'll always say, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
Facts.
So we all have our path, and the point, what we're trying to do is take our chapter like 10 and help you with your chapter 1 to get you, like, come along.
We don't gatekeep here. I've always been that way. I've always been very open about how I got here. I do truly believe it was just a God thing. But it's always an industry that I've been drawn into and wanted to be into. I knew I never would last forever in the previous career that I had. So just know, like, we are here to share our experiences in hopes that if it doesn't work out the same way for you, it inspires you to find a path that does. There's so many different ways that can look like, and we are here to cheer you on for sure.
Yep.
So what's your You Love to See It this week?
Okay, my love to see it this week is good customer service.
Ooh.
So we have been in this, like, and the sad that I have to point this out, right? Because customer service isn't always good. So when you get good customer service, you're like, oh my God, that was amazing.
Yeah.
We've been having kind of an ongoing battle with an appliance in our house for like the last 6 months. And to the point we're about ready to like rip it out because we don't think there's any other solution.
Like, it's easier to renovate the whole kitchen than to replace this one thing.
Not that drastic.
I know, but still.
Like almost, yeah. And I did like a Hail Mary email to actually like a dad of one of Charlie's friends. I was like, this is a total Hail Mary, but I know you're in this industry. Is there any way you can help? He responded immediately. And within 2 hours, I had like 3 phone calls. And they're like, yep, we'll be there like within 48 hours. We're going to take a look at it. We think it's this, da, 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 da. And like,
you finally have hope after
you finally have hope. But it was just like, everyone was so nice and so helpful. And they're like, yep, we'll give you a call. And then they called like right away. Yeah. And then not only one call, I had like 3 calls. And they were so nice. And I remember I'm like sitting there thinking, I'm like, and this is not just a Wisconsin thing. I know it's across the board, but I'm like, this is why the term Wisconsin nice exists. Yeah. Because like everyone was so caring and so sweet. And I said to him on the phone, I said, thank you so much. I know this is like a probably really minor project for you guys because they're like the biggest contractor in southwest Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, he's like, we do small to multi-million-dollar projects. We just want to help people.
And they treat everybody the same regardless, which is awesome.
And this is like the stupidest minor thing. And like, they're also working on multi-million-dollar projects. And they're like, nope, we just want to help people. And I was like, this I love it. Makes my heart happy.
Even if they can't solve the problem,
they were just nice.
You don't even care. You're like, I'm just glad I got to experience this with you because you were so kind, and I can't even be upset about it because I know you did everything you possibly could to help me.
Yeah, exactly. So like you may not be able to help, but you were just so nice.
Yeah. I get it.
And it's sad that that's the love you see it. Like you love to see someone be nice and helpful.
That's an adulting high right there.
Oh, it's such an adulting high.
My you love to see it is silly, but it's fun. So there is someone on Instagram. Her handle is Sarah Hearts. We'll put it in the Facebook group.
They make the great labels.
She has a lot of great things, but she has created hair clips, like claw clips that look like sewing machines.
Oh, I saw those.
I want one so bad. Okay, so she kind of teased them on her Instagram and said that they would be available at QuiltCon. She has a booth at QuiltCon. So I think on the first day, like they sold out. But she did say that they would be available on her website after QuiltCon at some point. Perfect. So if you're listening to this now and it's after QuiltCon, you might want to hop over to her website and see if she has any. I cannot wait to add one to my cart. They are so cute. They look like a white pearlescent, but it's in the shape of a sewing machine. And I love a good claw clip. I love a good claw clip. So I'll be ordering a few of those for myself because I'm also really notorious for losing claw clips. So I'll order more than one for myself. But they're so cute. And I love it when people find cute ways to incorporate sewing things that aren't necessarily notions that you need to sew, like that kind of stuff. So Sarah Hearts, I love your claw clips and I need one. Okay. That's why you'll love to see it. It just made me happy.
I don't lose things. Somehow my things grow legs and walk into my daughter's bedroom and bathroom.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful to have a boy.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Yep. So yes, we need those.
Yeah, I'm so excited about them. So I have to go give her a follow. We'll put a link to her Instagram in our show notes. But coming up next week, what are we going to be talking about?
We are talking about stress, creativity, anxiety, and all things on how creativity can help you manage stress and anxiety.
So a therapy session?
Kind of.
We need that.
Kind of.
I need it right now.
Because I think it's National Stress Awareness Month.
For April?
In April. And so we just wanted to touch on the power of creativity and how it can help manage stress and anxiety and just really the power that it has.
Well, and it leads into May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. So I think it's great that we have that conversation because I know we all like jokingly say like sewing is like my therapy, but it really is. And we're going to dive into like what that really means. But we've been hanging out with you guys longer than we normally would today. And I think, there are going to come times where we do have longer episodes, and I think that's okay. We really wanted to share our backgrounds with you as we dive into further things in this podcast moving forward. So we appreciate you hanging in for a longer episode today because I think it was all needed to be said. And I hope you got something out of it, and you share that with us over on the Facebook group and the thread.
Yeah. And questions, ask away.
Yeah.
We're here to answer them.
We're open books. So anyways, be sure you are streaming on your favorite channel to stream on. You can go watch it over on YouTube. If you want to go there, be sure you're following us on the socials and join our Facebook group. It's called the Sewcial Sewis. I will say this correctly at one point, or should we just rename it? If we should rename it, let us know. But we would just love to continue to connect with you and hang out with you, and we'll see you next week. All right.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
guys.
See you guys.
Happy sewing.